At the end of the shoot, he said, "Hey, I'm going onto this Netflix movie, and I'm not available to do the pickups for this film that I shot with Jordan Peele." It's like, Jordan Peele, he's awesome. I love Key and Peele.
Yeah.
And I said, "What's the project?" And he said, "Well, if you're up for it, would you fill in and shoot these pickups for me?" And so I read the script, and it was freaking brilliant. I was like, this is awesome.
We didn't expect Jack Thompson to say yes, but Jack Thompson came back and said yes, and then Billy Zane said yes. And so suddenly, in the middle of shooting, production, and I've got the problem of Jack Thompson and Billy Zane have both said yes to this one role. I've made my other producer actually make the call or write the email saying, "Oh, look, we're going with Jack. We'll write something specially for you for the sequel or something for Billy," because it was quite difficult and expensive to have him there. And he was like, "You put me in the fucking movie. I've spent too much time." He was like, he really wanted to do it. And I literally, when they say sleepless nights, I did not sleep that night.
Welcome back to the Flats, another episode tonight. Got two world famous filmmakers in the studio tonight. We got Denson, cinematographer, and Ché, filmmaker, producer, director. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us here tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
it's great.
thank you.
And you're, Denson, in town for a ACS event last night.
Yes.
The Australian Cinematographer Society has a chapter here in Canberra, lots of active members and filmmakers here in Canberra, but you've come in to have a little chat. How did it go last night?
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah, I was invited to come in and do a presentation of some of my recent work, and I showed some material, showed a few scenes and some behind-the-scenes images, and shared a few anecdotes and tips and tricks, and it was a really great night.
Yeah, awesome. And Ché, you're obviously in the middle of working on a big production, a follow-up to Blue World Order.
It's all relative, really. My big production is probably Denson's short film, but
I don't know about
but
that.
for a local production. Just finishing a film called States of Mind, which is about a meditation retreat in a haunted house. What could go wrong? Which is coming up really well. So that's engaged a lot of Canberra crew, and we've just about gotten over the line with it. I think by the end of the week I should have a good screenable version of the film.
Exciting.
So pretty much there.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you both about the filmmaking process. Obviously, I'm used to just doing small little productions, but how do you guys go with keeping that passion over a project for like years, sometimes 5+ years from writing it to getting it up? I don't have the energy to do like a 2-day shoot, so how do you guys keep that passion along the way?
Well, look, one of the things I think that's most apparent is, the fact that Denson's here tonight and hanging out is a testament to the kind of people that you meet when you do this sort of thing. I think most people involved are incredibly passionate at what they do if they've won any longevity in the industry. And I met Denson many, many years ago. We claim we're brothers when it's appropriate.
We do share
the Baker boys.
The Baker boys.
Yeah.
And, the fact that you forge friendships and relationships over long periods of time help you keep the passion. I think the people you meet along the way keep you just meet really interested, talented people, So, that's one of the things.
I would say that also it does stay fresh there's a very long period from the initial conception of a project through to the time you're actually on set shooting it, and then until you're finally ready to release and screen it. But each stage is a new chapter, and new people
They're
come
completely
along.
different skill sets, aren't they? Yeah, really.
I mean, as a cinematographer, I'm mainly involved with 4 to 6 weeks of prep on a project, 5 to 6 weeks shoot, unless it's a TV series and it's months. And then I go away from it for a while, and then I'm back to do a grade, which might be 10 days if it's a feature. 2 weeks is usually the grade. But I am also married to a director, writer, producer, so I am actively
I was going to
involved
say you're probably far more involved in that side of it.
More so than most cinematographers would have the opportunity to, for better or worse.
Yeah.
But I think it means that I'm there in very early stages where I can start having conversations about looks and aesthetic and inspiration. And I think when it comes to that long period of being involved with the project, that I find once you're on set, each scene is like it's like live theatre. This is your little window of time in a schedule where it's on. This is now. This is when we're capturing that scene we've been talking about for weeks, months, and years. This is it. This is our chance. Let's do it. Let's make it great. And that's where the excitement is often.
That was one of the sayings we were having on the most recent shoot when the camera might not have been working, and I'm like, well, unless you hit record, it's all just expensive theatre. So we've got to actually capture it
with a pretty small audience if you're not recording. Yeah. So you work with your wife?
Yeah, I do. Not exclusively. I do work with other directors, but I shoot. Yeah, we actually met at film school, so we've been working together for a long time.
Wow.
Wonderful Claire McCarthy, amazingly talented lady. And, they're truly Australia's power couple, cinematic power couple.
There's
these
a few
guys.
power couples. We're one of them.
And New Zealand as well.
Yes.
You're going across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a Kiwi-born boy.
And how do you find that dynamic, working
being partly Kiwi?
with your partly Kiwi, but also working with your wife?
Yeah, it's got to a point now that I feel like that I'm at an advantage. I know her style, and I've been intrinsically involved in the projects that we're doing to such a degree that by the time we're on set, we have a shorthand. We're not talking about nitty-gritty details. That stuff's already covered, or just instinctually already know what's going to be
It's like a
right.
wavelength there.
Totally, yeah. Well, or Jedi shit is what.
Yeah.
So that's great. And you generally, as a cinematographer and director relationship, you eventually get to that point, whether you're a married couple or not, either. But you also do get into positions, and I feel like I've got an approach where I will always present my thoughts, feelings, and ideas, and I'm never offended if a director, whether it's my wife or someone else who I'm not married to, who's directing, that I'm not going to have a thin skin and feel offended. I just get on with it and keep working on it.
Shorthand cross over into your married life and parenting? Like my partner, if one of us has to go to the bathroom, we'll say final checks, and that's our kind of code for going to the bathroom, sort of go to the toilet. So there's weird little things that have crept into our life, actually.
We don't have that one.
You don't have that. I was just wondering if any of that film terminology has crept into your world.
No. I mean, that's one of the things that is interesting being married to the director you're working on a project with, is that a production meeting can happen at any time of the day, midnight, morning. Yeah, there were times I can remember when we were on some big shoots that Claire would be dreaming and would wake up talking lenses and talking about a scene that wasn't even on the schedule, and that's not an experience you often get unless you're married to the director.
Are you billing those hours?
I don't think
the
producers
budget
would accept the invoice for that.
Certainly claiming the meals though, right, on tax. Yeah, that was totally a work production meeting.
Yeah. And so what are some of those projects you've worked on together?
Yeah, we met out of film school, and we did a short film together. It was our first. That was a Australian the Australian Film Commission funded short, and that then led on to our first feature together, which was The Waiting City, which we shot in Kolkata, India, with Radha Mitchell and Joel Edgerton and Isabel Lucas, among a stellar Indian cast. And that really did sort of launch both of our careers, and that's where the trajectory kind of started there. And that particular project has led on to a lot of other projects together. I mean, that said, we had done a bunch of music videos and short films and various smaller projects together. But we've done our next feature together after that was a film called Ophelia, which we shot in the Czech Republic with Daisy Ridley in the role of Ophelia. It's the Hamlet story told through Ophelia's perspective. We had George Mackay as Hamlet and Naomi Watts as Gertrude. We had Tom Felton was in there and Clive Owen. It was a brilliant cast, and we had Ché Baker also playing a role.
Well, there may have been an expert chicken plucker in the kitchen, and one of the serfs, I believe. I went to visit these guys in Prague. I was in London, I think, for Blue World Order premieres, and Denson was like, "Oh, we're in Prague. You should come visit." And I kind of laughed and went, I actually could come visit. Yeah. And so I turned up and it was amazing. And then of course they're like, "Oh, you're here."
Put him in a costume.
Throw him in the back. No, that was, and it was, I mean, I have to say it was such a pleasure and a privilege to see these guys work together. Claire and Denson's shorthand on set was very apparent. And Denson was incredibly generous with just I remember standing next to that scene. Just the how he was achieving certain looks and the time periods that went by. So it was a real honour to be able to sort of be on set for a week or so and just watch these guys work together.
Yeah, it looks like an amazing place to be.
It is. Filming. We were fortunate because we had quite a lengthy prep for that, and it was 3 months leading up to before we arrived in Prague, before we started rolling cameras, and we got to do incredible location scouts. We saw pretty much every medieval castle in the region, and of which there's some amazing ones. But the thing we discovered is shooting in castles is actually really hard. Just getting equipment in. They were never built for truck access. So we shot in a bunch of different castles, some that have been used in many films before, like Kriverklat castles. One you can imagine. Yeah. But a lot of it we built on the soundstage at Barrandov Studios as well. But that was a real challenge, and that's I think that's also, this is a particular experience where me being married to the director was advantageous for both of us. Not just the fact we got to have such a long lead of prep and really talk in detail about the visual style that we wanted to create, but being such a challenging shoot, we're really feeling the pressure at times. We were there for each other, to have each other's back, and to just look out for things that were coming down the track, whether it's with the execs or with the production. Scale of production.
There's a lot of local crew that you had, sort of, local production companies that facilitated a lot of the regular stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah. We had Still King Films who do that. Yeah, you could say they were a service production company. I mean, they're a massive production company. Do a lot of production in the Czech Republic, and they were brilliant. But it was for both of us, that was the biggest scale production we had worked together on to date up to that point. And we were there to hold each other's hand through it.
Premiered at Sundance, to much acclaim. It was really great as well to see that.
How was it? You said it was your first big one. How was it stepping up from you were doing short films, that sort of thing, to now on a feature?
I'd done other features before, and I'd started with smaller features. My first feature was a film called Deck Dogs, an Australian teen skater drama.
Sounds awesome.
I thought it was awesome. We had Tony Hawk as starred in it. He's in the big finale scene, and we shot it on 16mm, 2 cameras on the shoulder. We shot it in Sydney and Adelaide. Steve Pazwolski was the director. You don't have to put the trailer on for this one.
I want to see this Tony Hawk scene.
Yeah, but this is some time ago. I've been around for a bit. You found it? But this is it. That was called shooting wide angle lens shots with Tony Hawk. Oh, that's not the actual
Oh, this
trailer.
is a behind
That's
the
just
scenes
a
thing.
loop of him
Yeah.
doing in the bowl. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So that's not me operating the camera there. That's another like skate cinematographer who's a friend of Tony's. Shot a lot of his stuff.
That's unreal.
But this was a drama. And the idea was that it was a like do you know BMX Bandits?
Mm.
Yeah, this was like BMX Bandits of skating.
Yeah, awesome.
But so that was that was my first feature, and each feature was sort of a step up, bigger, more budget, bigger cameras, bigger crew.
You were saying
bigger
that
stresses.
last night that Waiting City was still sort of working for you. That film led to one of your most recent projects, right?
Yeah. I just did a film called Mountain Boy, which we shot in the UAE, and and I had an absolutely brilliant time. And it was a period film set in the Middle East in the 1950s, and it's about Mountain Boy. Is in brief, he's a autistic boy who's fled from his village due to a misunderstanding, and is growing up in isolation. A young girl discovers him and brings him back down into the villages, and he goes on an adventure. And his autism, which is what he first thought was his a problem, as now being seen by the people he encounters along the way as almost like a superpower. He's got the ability to, sense the incoming weather and sandstorms, and he connects with nature and animals in ways which us others don't. So it's a really beautiful tale. But I met with one of the producers, Nancy Patton. She said that was one of the first questions I asked. Like, why me? How did you come across my name? And she said, I was at a film festival and was talking about the project to someone from Screen Australia, and they said you should check out The Waiting City, this Australian film, because it sounds like that's kind of the look you're going for. And so she did, and I got the job.
Yeah, and it looks beautiful too. We got a bit of a privilege of some of the behind the scenes looks, and
You won't find Mountain Boy online. It hasn't been released.
Yeah,
yet.
I was
Comes
just
out.
having a quick look.
when he went through, how he achieved a lot of those looks to the the ACS cinematography nerds. So we were all kind of treated to a bit of behind the magic curtain stuff to, looking forward to that. Do you know when that is released?
I don't. It's having a Middle East
Festival.
premiere
Right.
first, and then other territories. Stay tuned.
Yeah, awesome. And Ché, you're producing this next film. So is that been a change for you since your last few where you've been directing?
Look, I've sort of been writing, directing, and producing along the way. They're sort of like Denson was saying, each phase is quite different. In a perfect world, I would just write and direct, and some producer would come and take care of all the logistics for me and raise all the money, and off we go. But the reality is, to get things going, you often have to make your own content. I often say to a lot of people in the film world, you end up doing the thing that facilitates the thing you really want to do. So, actors end up, shooting their own content, directors end up producing, producers end up, forming distribution companies. So, being able to write, produce, and direct means that you can, as you're writing the script, you're actually thinking about how you're going to shoot it and what it's going to cost along the way. So it's kind of, they're very related, but it's not necessarily the best way to do it, in the sense of, in a perfect world, you would just direct and someone else would make your creative vision happen. But I think it actually is a bit of a superpower in understanding the constraints, and you can write in your script a helicopter chasing a motorbike, and then you go, hang on, we can't afford that, so I can have let's have a motorbike chasing a skateboard. It's the same device, it's a faster, more powerful thing chasing something slower and whatnot, but it's within a budget. And I think when you are involved in those processes, and you understand a little bit about what things are going to cost right from the get-go, you can write that in. You know, if you say it was a dark and stormy night as your opening line, then, you know, hang on, there's a giant VFX budget and some rain effects that is going to cost you something. Or if it was a pleasant sunny afternoon, it's like it's much cheaper. So those kind of things come into your head in a way that it might not if you were just purely involved, you know, just writing the script. So this one, States of Mind, it was initially, I was talking to Denson before today, it was initially the low-hanging fruit of a bunch of actors that I knew who were, you know, really talented actors, but for whatever reason hadn't, you know, had their breakout, and I wanted to create a bit of a showcase ensemble piece for them. And while I had the option to a Matthew Riley novel called Contest, which was, you know, his first book. And while I was trying to shop that around and get that up at a much larger budget, I sort of had the lower budget film that was going to be just, you know, essentially a bunch of friends and a single location and, you know, very run and gun. Then, of course, COVID happened, and so the big project, you know, got put on hold. And then the smaller one seemed possible. So it was kind of working backwards, going, what resources do I have? I had access to this amazing house. I had a bunch of great actors. And so I kind of wrote a story to fit those resources, as opposed to writing a story and then finding the resources to make it happen. It was sort of doing that whole process in reverse, which was interesting.
And how have you enjoyed that so far?
It's fantastic, living the dream. Yeah. Well, it's great. Denson will attest to you. You know, it's curveballs. It's there's moments of joy and elation. Actually, there's moments of extreme stress and moments of relief. You go through lots of different emotions along the way, but the only way, particularly when you're producing and you're putting your own money at risk and other people's money that, you know, are relying on you, the only way out is through. So there's no other way than to get it done. Like once you spend that first chunk of money, literally the only way to get it back is to finish the film and you know, get it all back at the end. So you're all in once the ball's rolling. So you want to make sure you're ready.
How have you found that, the dealing with the budget, and you're getting these projects up that you're just like, how is he doing it with this budget and independent film? You got to be crazy to even attempt to start doing that sort of stuff. How did you find both for Blue World Order and the new film, trying to manage that budget and getting it off the ground?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of it is I spent a lot of time eating humble pie on big projects for a long time, learning as much as possible, you know, working on, you know, things like Dawson's Creek and The Hobbit and all that sort of stuff as a very small cog in a very big machine, and just observing where the money went and what was essential and got on screen and what didn't. It sort of gives you, it took, you know, 20 years for me to feel confident enough that I could say, yep, okay, give me $1 million or more, and I feel confident to get that back to you. Because, you know, you like Denson was saying, you do music videos, you do in cameras, like a lot of very talented corporate video producers, and, you know, the corporate video production world is a lot of one-man band sort of stuff. So you'll get one woman who'll shoot it and cut it and, you know, do the music, and then another friend will come in and hold the boom for a day. And so you get a much more broad experience on the smaller projects. And I sort of got to a point where I was comfortable enough with what it actually took to get a film made that I could try it on a small project. So Blue World Order was a very small project budget-wise, and it was small enough that it could learn about all the teething problems and test the model and, you know, it was terrifying. Lots of curveballs that you don't expect. And every project has their own challenges, and they're not the ones that you plan for.
It's interesting that you say small, but it's
I
incredibly
know.
ambitious.
I was going to say
ambitious.
that
It's,
too.
and it's epic, man.
Well, I mean, look, I was pretty happy with, in the sense of,
And look, you've got
Yeah.
absolute legends of cinema in there.
we punched above our weight for what we had, but it's one of those things that, you know, you get a lot of no's, and then when you start going, a lot of the no's become yeses, and a lot of doors open up that were closed. You know, the guys who had the Wasteland cars, you find ways to getting Bruce Spence and Jack Thompson and Billy Zane. You know, that wasn't in the initial thing, but once you're going, you're sort of all in.
But I think this is an example of why you can't refer to a project by its budget.
Yeah.
Like you can't say this is a low budget film, an ultra low budget film, a big budget film. Like the budget is not what defines a great film or a well executed film.
Well, yeah, thanks. I mean, look, it was an incredibly supportive Canberra community, and a lot of local people who stepped up into new sort of roles, and you know.
How many DeLoreans did you have just then?
So we had 10 DeLoreans. I think we only ever had 7 in a shot that were working at any one time. But I got every DeLorean on the East Coast, I think,
That's
come
brilliant.
to Canberra for a weekend. But, you know, that was the kind of thing. When you don't have money, you need time. And we put the film together, and there was this moment where, you know, in the script it says they escape the prison camp and go to the refugee camp sort of thing. And we watched the film, and it just was lacking something. And I'm like, well, what about instead of just they walk from this camp to this camp, they steal a car and there's a big DeLorean car chase thing. But that happened 6 months after we shot the rest of the film, you know, so that wasn't something that was initially in there. And the luxury, I guess, of being independent is, you know, you're on your own time frame. You do it, you can watch it. If it's not working, you know, there's you're your own boss. You don't have a studio saying you've got to deliver by this date, and, you know, otherwise contract's over. You know, you sort of so long as you can, you know, we were raising money as we went, you know, so it was not ideal, but it was also a fantastic learning curve for then coming and doing the next film.
What was the story about getting Billy Zane?
I want to hear this too.
Yeah.
Hang on, what can I say? So I did an exchange to North Carolina in university in 1998, where I studied film over there and worked on a bunch of projects. You know, I was saying Dawson's Creek, a film called Morgan's Ferry as well. And Morgan's Ferry starred Billy Zane, Henry Rollins, and Kelly McGillis. So, you know, off from Top Gun fame. Henry Rollins, I had no idea who he was at the time.
Yeah.
He's just this guy I was chatting with, and, you know, he seemed to have some things to say. And then Billy, I had I was training with a stunt group over there, and one of the guys at the stunt group was Billy's driver, and we'd just gone out to karaoke one night with a bunch of friends, and Billy Zane turns up, you know, at karaoke. And we just kind of hit it off. He'd spent some time in Australia, and he actually knew sort of the Blue Mountains area where I'd grown up and whatnot. And so we just kind of stayed friends and stayed in touch. And then many years later, he came to Australia shooting a film called Invincibles, I think, or The Invincibles, something like that. Anyway, I touched base with him again and said, I don't know if you remember me, a few years ago, and he, you know, he did, and he got me to shoot a little music video for him for one of his music friends. And so it sort of helped him out along the way for a few years. Anyway, fast forward to when we're doing Blue World Order, we had this whole thing where we were shooting away, and then we had a couple of roles where we were like, oh, we could cast up in these roles. And we thought, oh, who can we get to play this main bad guy? And and it was a North Korean general, and we found this amazing actor called Shingo Usami who we got and, rehearsed him, and he was great. And then one of the roles we were going to cast up in was this sort of small one-day role that we were like, oh, let's go out to all the top, Australian, the David Wenhams, Sam Neil's and whatnot. Anyway, most of those agents wouldn't even pass the script on, but Jack Thompson read the script and loved it. Anyway, so while it was sitting with Jack, I was sort of sitting there going, and we're in the middle of shooting, I'm going, oh, I wonder if Billy would want a trip. So I literally called him up. I'm like, hey man, do you want a trip to Australia, for you and your family? And he's like, oh yeah, tell me, I'm doing this film. Anyway, so we sent him the script, and then of course we didn't expect Jack Thompson to say yes, but Jack Thompson came back and said yes, and then Billy Zane said yes, and so suddenly, in the middle of shooting, production, and I've got the problem of Jack Thompson and Billy Zane have both said yes to this one role, and I go, oh, and like logistically and legally and all that sort of stuff, it's so much easier to have an Australian, just do it. We didn't have to deal with SAG and stuff, and so we're eventually like, look. I've made my other producer actually make the call or write the email saying, oh, look, we're going with Jack. We'll write something specially for you for the sequel or something for Billy, because it was quite difficult and expensive to have him there. And he was like, you put me in this fucking movie. I've spent too much time. He was like, he really wanted to do it. And I literally, when they say sleepless nights, I did not sleep that night. And I went, well, what we could do is make him the main bad guy, who is supposed to be this, North Korean general originally. And he was like, yep, cool, let's do it. But we still only had him for the same amount of time. And, so it just kind of turned out that, you're dealing with their agents, you're dealing with SAG, you're dealing with the MEAA, you're trying to get foreign actor certificates and all these things, and you're about to shoot the scene and you hope he got on the plane, and we're shooting in these caves at Wee Jasper with no reception. I sent my partner Sarah off to pick him up from the airport, and we're like, we don't know if he's coming or not.
Be there.
And so I get a message when we got back into reception saying, yep, Eagle has landed. And so she needed to entertain him for the afternoon. So she went to the movies, took Billy Zane on a movie date, and saw a few people, that she knew in town who just kind of were giving her a really strange, close look. It's like, hang on. But anyway, so yeah, that was the story. It was a case of
you turned him down.
Well, when it rains, it pours, sort of thing. We didn't think we'd get either of them, and we had Jack Thompson and Billy Zane both say yes to the same part. And like you say, it's curveballs. What do you do? Denson and I were talking earlier today about the constraints and what filmmaking is, and it's problem solving on the fly. They're not the problems that you thought you were going to have. In Denson's case, it's like, well, this actor, we can't shoot with them. What do we shoot? How do we get this scene? The sun's not in the right position, or it's raining and whatever, what do you do? So, yeah, I don't know how you deal with that.
Well, it's different techniques for every problem, really, isn't there? And you come up with new solutions or fall back onto the ones that have been tried and tested and worked in the past.
The apple box on the camera on the apple box in a sandbag instead of the elaborate rig.
Yeah. This was just the story I was telling last night, that I just saw, I knew exactly where I wanted the camera. I saw how quick we could get it, and what we needed to do was just an apple box and a shot bag. Boom, camera would go on there. But some of the team thought, no, that's not how you do it. We've got to we'll build a truss. We'll we'll get it in there with a adjustable mount. And in the end, I was just like, no, doesn't even look like the shot I want. I just want it on the apple box, quick and easy. Yeah, but that's something, I guess, which comes from experience when you have issues that come up, that you found ways that work, and you have that in your kit of arsenal of little techniques to pull out next time you have something similar.
And do you, now that you, generally have the budgets to have more toys, do you still find that you use lo-fi techniques a lot of the time, solutions, even when you have access to some of the other stuff?
Yeah, well, it's always sometimes the best solution isn't necessarily the most elaborate or expensive or complicated solution. Sometimes it is just keeping things simple, particularly when, I am mainly doing drama, and it's about the storytelling. It's about capturing performances, and sometimes you do want to keep it a little bit more simple and focus more on capturing a great performance than doing any fancy camera trickery.
Being around the late great Andrew Lesnie on Hobbit was a wonderful experience to see how he solved problems a lot of the time. And they could literally, if they wanted the camera to do this move, they would build a rig and a dolly and a railing they would build whatever it was to make the camera go where they wanted it to. But a lot of the time he would just, go into the shed, get some fairy lights, pop a thing up, and get a light. He would just from his days on shooting Simon Townsend's Wonderworld sort of thing. He would have these ways of getting results that when literally, I remember him telling me a story about on King Kong how the street lights, they built this whole set and the street lights weren't receding in the way that they wanted it to, and he's like, no, it's not working. And they literally pulled up the set and rebuilt the street and resized these street lights. He had that kind of power and ability, and yet a lot of the time it would be a very lo-fi simple solution that didn't require anything other than experience, I guess. So that was a great learning experience.
Yeah, that would have been great working on that. Can you tell us more about what your role was on The Hobbit?
So I was officially the on-set colorist, which was basically grading. This was sort of before. This was sort of the cusp of digital. So we were shooting on the Red Epic 5Ks.
3D as well, was it?
Yeah, and 3D and 48. So I was at university. I was studying stereoscopic storytelling, and Hobbit was going to be 3D, 48 frames, and digital. And Andrew, amazing as he was, had never shot digital, and he hadn't shot 3D, and so I think I was sort of I was there as his interpreter. I just sort of did whatever he needed, and a lot of it was translating the digital terminology into the cinematography terminology. Not that he sort of needed the help really, but I think he just felt comfortable having me there to be an extra layer of someone he could ask some of the digital questions about with quietly over at the cart without, but and then being able to grade the looks on set before, so I'd essentially grade the rushes before we'd go and view them at night, and that was amazing. I've got the little presentation that I had there. Speaking of funny things, I don't know if I might actually bring just this thing up, because it is one thing that's on the Hobbit side of things that makes a little difference. So one of the things I did, not sure if you can see.
Yeah, that way it works well.
So we had two. When you talk about whole resources, we had the whole bag end set built at full scale for the full size actors, and then they had a perfect replica bag end set that was just down the hall a little bit. That was, I think it was 0.68. There was some percentage that was
Hobbit scale.
Hobbit scale, so that when Ian was in there, he would appear, large. And it was identical down to the last detail. Amazing attention to detail. Taken them, months and months of construction to build, get everything just right. Anyway, so we get on set and we start sort of shooting, and Peter starts looking at it. He's going, "Oh no, don't, I don't know." And so I'm at the cart there, and so I get Ian in a green screen version, and I'm there kind of scaling him up and down for Peter to look at to pop him in. So I'd pop him in and go, "Oh, there you go." And put him at different sizes, and he's like, "Oh, there, that one." And so suddenly, and that was, I think, 75% or something. So quite literally, they decided to not shoot on the small bag end set that they'd built and was identical and amazing, and shoot on this secret stuff. Let's not get that. This green screen set that is an identical, it's got the arch scaled down. And they had 2 cameras, slave MoCo, so motion control cameras that were 3/4 the size as well. The challenge in 3D, so in Lord of the Rings, they used forced perspective. So to make something further away, make something smaller, it was further away from the camera, and make something bigger, it was closer, and then, worked the focus so they looked like they were on the same plane. But of course in 3D you can't do that because you've got depth perception. So it was like, how do they get around that? They had these perfectly scaled motion control cranes that moved in sync, and Ian would they'd rehearse, block the scene together, and then they would be able to hear each other with earpieces, and then Ian would step off into the green screen set, and the dwarves would act it out on the large set at the same time as it would go, and Andrew and Peter would view this live composite.
Wow.
And and none of this had been worked out ahead of time. This was the thing. These geniuses were kind of working it out on the fly and going, how are we going to solve that? And in one way I felt terrible that I'm just some pleb scaling Gandalf up and down, and the result of that was I'm sure there were other contributing factors, but it was one of the factors that was like, he was like, "Oh yeah, that size," and that meant that they weren't going to use this amazing set that they prepped and built, and so anyway, I probably just got myself in trouble now with that. But yeah, that was
leaked images from behind the scenes.
But it was.
It's sort of like it's almost like people still have no idea at that level, but it kind of comes together, and because people who are making films starting out, they think, it's such a different leap to that. Is it kind of like we're still having the same problems at that scale? It's just a bigger scale, but it's actually not that different in a way.
I mean, yes and no in my experience. Like the people on The Hobbit, they had so many crew, and they had people who were just there just to grow the grass. That was what they did, but they were the best grass growers in the world. Everyone was so specialized and so good at their job.
Still there,
the skill set was insane, and most people are working. I use the term eating a lot of humble pie, because a lot of people are far more capable than actually what their role is a lot of the time. You've got someone who might be a second assistant hair puller or something who, weaves hair into a wig, but they're actually an amazing designer and a costume, creator in their own right. But the bigger the gig, the sort of smaller the cog you are. And so I think those problems come up, but the level of skill that you often have on those bigger sets, you've got people who've been doing it for years and years, and
the highly focused, specialised roles.
The bigger the
that
project,
you don't get when you're making your own short film.
You're your own focus puller and your own.
You're mowing the grass.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know if in Denson's experience if that's the same.
Yeah, well, I guess it is true that you'll still have problems and issues and mistakes. They're just bigger or more expensive or a little bit different. But you do surround yourself with the best people who have a wealth of experience where there's going to be someone at hand that will have a solution. And you find that solution, you implement it and move on, keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, there's certainly no magic one. You know, the problems still occur. They're just they've got an extra couple of zeros on the end of them.
Yeah, yeah. And you lose a few extra nights' sleep thinking about them.
It's certainly. Yeah.
What about? I wanted to ask Denson, your time on Get Out.
Yeah.
You were part of that crew. Did you at the time? Well, first of all, how did that project come about? And did you at the time know what that was going to sort of become? That sort of cult classic.
That was a case of just like it was. I'd actually been called in to take over, to fill in for a camera operator on another Blumhouse film, Insidious Chapter 4. Their camera operator was leaving, and there was two more weeks left on the shoot, and I got asked to come in. I was like, yeah, I love Blumhouse, and Insidious would be a great project to work on. And that was with a cinematographer, Toby Oliver, who's also an Australian cinematographer, an exceptional and brilliant cinematographer. He was living in the States. I was living in the States too. We're in Los Angeles. And so I did the 2 weeks with him on that and had a great time. And at the end of the shoot, he said, hey, I'm going onto this Netflix movie and I'm not available to do the pickups for this film that I shot with Jordan Peele. It's like, Jordan Peele, he's awesome. I love Key and Peele.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, what's the project? And he said, well, you know, if you're up for it, would you fill in and shoot these pickups for me? And so I read the script and it was freaking brilliant. I was like, this is awesome. And got sent the assembly of the cut as it stood, which they had had test screenings of, and came to the conclusion that they wanted to shoot an alternative ending, have another chance to shoot the opening Steadicam shot. When they did shoot that, it was raining and it wasn't. They kind of rushed it, and Jordan didn't get what he was after. And there was a few other things that came up in the. There's the opening scene. There was a few other scenes that came up that they wanted to, in the test screenings, they wanted to adjust and change. So there was a few scenes where they just needed one single shot to help make it work, like Catherine Keener's death scene. We did a bunch of shots for that, and just some little details and pickups. But yeah, we shot this opening Steadicam scene. It looks a little bit dark there, but it's looks beautiful on the
for our
screen.
viewers, it looks fine here too.
Okay.
I have to crush the TV,
Right.
otherwise you're all backlit too much. Yeah.
So yeah, then I had an interview with Jordan on a video call. It wasn't even Zoom then. I don't know what it was, just FaceTime or something. And he said, you got the gig. And next thing I was over in Alabama doing. We shot tests for everything in Los Angeles, and which he really wanted to do, seeing as he had a chance to reshoot some scenes. He wanted to perfect them, so he brought in his stunt guys, and we shot stunt rehearsals. We blocked this out like the week before, using my iPad using Artemis on my iPad. We blocked out this Steadicam shot, and had plenty of time to rehearse it, so we could absolutely perfect it. And had a great time. Yeah, Jordan's a really interesting director too. Because of his comedy background, he knows a lot about timing, and I've heard him say that the comedy and horror have a lot in common. It's all about suspense and then release. You build up the tension, and then you release, whether it's laughter or a scream. So he sort of applies that approach to his horror and drama. But yeah, the thing I recall from working with him, he would often talk to the crew and to the cast, not in terms of what he wanted them to do, but how he wanted the audience to feel at the time. And he'd act it out, and he would be like talking through the scene. He'd be saying, "This is the moment when everyone in the audience are going, what's going on? What's this? What's this?" And then he'd describe every little blow by blow the reaction that he wanted the audience to be having, and it was such an effective way to communicate, because we all clued in. We knew exactly what he was going for, and we all brought our A game to be able to deliver that. So rather than being very specific technically, it was kind of giving us a bit of our own freedom to creatively interpret that. And fortunately, he liked what we we did. So that was quite a that was just a lucky break of Toby needing someone to fill in for him, and
Next
I got
minute
the
you're
gig.
on the set
Yeah.
of one of the biggest horrors of that year.
Yeah,
But it is, you know, it's one of those things where you say it's a lucky break, but it's years of proving yourself, earning a reputation, taking the step to move to LA to be in a position to get lucky. You know, it's not, you know, Denson gets that call because of all the work he's done prior, you know, to get lucky, you know.
Yeah, and that was the first time that I had come in and shot. Actually, no, sorry, I did do it on some other smaller productions, but have had to finish off someone else's job in a sense. But that's probably a crude way of putting it. It was more that there's already an established style and a look that you need to honour, and you need what I'm going to shoot needs to seamlessly cut into that. And I think I've gotten pretty good at that, and I've been asked to do that quite a bit now recently. It's not what I ever thought I'd be selling myself as, but I can pretty quickly jump onto a project and step in, look at what they've shot, get a good sense of the taste, the style, the
fixer,
the aesthetic, and maybe I'm the fixer. I don't know, but it's probably a good skill to have, just to be able to sort of technically break some stuff down and then think, well, yeah, I can recreate that. And then,
do you get question for both of you? Do you get doubts or nerves or I don't think I can do this still? I know definitely for me, when even at any project nowadays, you're like, I don't know if I'll get this one right, but you kind of do. Do you still have those sort of moments where you're like, here I've been thrown into this and I don't know if I can do it, or I struggle to, once you get started, are they going to like it, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, well, absolutely. For me, I would, and I think if I didn't feel that way, then I was probably doing something a little bit basic. I mean, I want to do things that are going to be really challenging me. I mean, I feel like I'm not going to go into a job and completely fail and not be able to pull it off. It would just be what level of greatness, or is it just going to be okay? And I think you've got to really strive for it to be amazing. And the thing I learned early on in my career is to have a really good support team around you. I'll usually have a gaffer and a key grip who have more experience than I do. Worked on films that I enjoy, or worked with DPs that I really respect. And then they become such a great resource on set too, because then I can, like, if I don't know what I need to do in a particular moment, I can turn around and say, hey, what do you reckon? Or what would so-and-so, the DP you worked with on that other big film that I liked, what have they done in this situation? And they can offer up some great solutions. And I think
they've got your back.
Yeah. And I think, well, that's also a great resource to tap, all that wealth of knowledge.
I think it's a little bit like jumping out of a plane and building a parachute on the way down. You have to be confident enough that you trust yourself that you'll be able to pull it off, but you don't know what that's going to entail. And it's terrifying, but you have no choice. Like you need to, you need to have faith in yourself and put all the things in place that you can. Like Denson was saying, work with the best people you can, and then you're always going to have curveball, and know that you're going to have curveballs that you can't foresee. There's going to be issues that you just can never plan for, whether it's, a COVID lockdown or, things outside of your control. And particularly when you're producing, everyone's problems, things are not your fault, but they're your responsibility. If an actor or a crew member is stuck in traffic because they left too late and they got caught on the harbour bridge, it's not your fault. It's probably not their fault, but you've got to find a solution. And so you're constantly having to think laterally and problem solve in ways that are so unrelated to the art of filmmaking that you've just got to build all that structure so you can actually do the thing that you love, which is, telling the story and trying to evoke emotion from an audience. That's sort of the happy place. And that's probably a little bit different when you're doing an independent thing. That's the part that I would love to have taken off me, where someone else, finding a really good support producing team to be able to, and you build that, and that's part of my mission in around Canberra, is to sort of help build a sustainable film industry where there's enough people that we can rinse and repeat on these projects. And there's a lot more. I found a lot easier to get crew this time round in some of the smaller support roles than last time, because they sort of didn't exist before. But a few years later, it's been a bit better. It's keeping them in town is always the problem, because you get to a certain level and people leave, and you have to get the experience. You guys obviously, you have to go where the work is as a DP. You can't do it remotely. You can't work from your lounge room. You have to physically go on set and shoot in Serbia or Kazakhstan or wherever it is.
They have to. I mean, I'd want to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
I'd want to not do that.
So if you're trying to find a good camera crew, the good camera people they're often leaving Canberra, of course. So getting a project that will attract the good ones back is a challenge. But it's certainly you have to have faith in yourself, but it's certainly you're full of doubts about. There'll be challenges, and but the only way out is through. Basically, you can't. Once you start, like I was saying before, you can't stop. There's no quitting halfway through. It's just literally not an option.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and we'll wrap it up soon, and let you guys get out to dinner. But a few things we
go all night.
We got to mention
this.
Yeah.
Well, we can get late night tired.
A few things we got to mention. One of your more recent films, Colour Room. Stunning stuff.
Oh, thanks, man.
How did that one come about? And
Yeah.
how did you enjoy working on that project?
Yeah, well, that was another film with my wife, with Claire McCarthy. She directed that. It was interesting. She frequently will mention to me that a script has come her way, and what do you think? And we would always, share our thoughts and feelings on projects before agreeing to them. And she said, "Hey, there's this project called The Colour Room. It's the story of Clarice Cliff." And it was sort of a bit of a blank, and I think she expected me to know who Clarice Cliff was. I said, "Okay, can you tell me more?" She said, "Oh, she's a ceramicist from the 1920s." And I said, "Okay, that sounds riveting." And I think I sort of maybe downplayed it, or was probably a little bit quick to judge, because she actually is riveting. She's a really cool woman, and we made the movie with Phoebe Denevor playing Clarice, and Matthew Good playing Collie Shorter, and made this, The Life of Clarice Cliff, as it says there on the trailer. But this was shot in the Midlands in the UK. I live in the UK now, and have been there for a few years. I've been shooting a lot of projects in the UK, and it just felt like maybe it's time to make it our base for a while. And so we spent a whole lot of time doing research trips to Stoke-on-Trent, where the story's set. And it's set in an era that we needed to recreate, so we needed to do a lot of research, looking at photography from the period, which is a big resource of photography from the period, because it was a massive industry, and photography was becoming quite the thing then too. So we're very lucky to have a lot of images to reference, and made this really fun period story.
And the art of cinematography, it's very much about the small little details, and especially in that it's a very intricate sort of thing, and you're playing with light. How did you go with those details? And then also, does it matter? So often you'll hear people saying, "Oh, I watched that," and they don't even notice a lot of the stuff as an individual thing, but as a whole, it builds a picture.
Yeah.
How do you find that detail and working with that detail, and what you you want to focus on and what you disregard and go, oh, that doesn't matter in this case.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think a big part of cinematography is world building, and that means creating a world that the audience lives within for the period of that film, and you feel you've been transported there. You feel the texture, you feel the light, you feel, and it's the sound, it's the whole, it's the costumes, it's everything within that world. And I think to be able to have that world building, you need to feel the atmosphere, and that is part of the things I need to do, whether it's with a bit of smoke or lighting, lens flares and whatnot. You also need to just see those details, and sometimes it's those little details that the audience doesn't realise. Oh yeah, there was that nice close-up picture of a little thing. It'll happen and go past them, but it's a detail that will register and be a part of that building of the world. And it's a little detail that if it's shot in a particular way, you'll feel like it's real, living in that world, and you get a sense of the rest of the world around that. And those little details are often really important for the character too, that you get a sense of the world that they inhabit and the world that they live in. So a lot of that came from either looking at photography and just seeing details in some of those images and saying, oh, we should make something like that. That's kind of cool. And talking with the production designer who's intrinsically responsible for bringing all that with their team to the set. But I do find part of my role, I'll often see, we love working with a production designer who will build a room rather than just build a couple of views for the camera. But you've got corners, you've got stuff behind you, you've got stuff in the drawers, and you feel like you're in a actual space. And then that's my responsibility to make sure we capture all of that in there, whether it's putting it in the foreground or in the background. Not everything should have its own cutaway close-up. You want to be able to, like, if I'm doing a close-up on an actor, then the part of the world building is what's behind that character, what's in the front of them, what moves around them. And if you can sneak in as many of those little details into that world building, the audience is going to take something away from that.
And you hear a lot about people having the eye for it. And where do you think your eye came from? Where did that develop? When did you start?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Thinking about cameras and getting involved in that.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, my there was two things. My parents had a photo album from their honeymoon. My dad was a Kiwi, my mum was a Perth girl, and they, for their honeymoon, travelled around Europe and India, and they had these amazing photographs that both of them had taken. And they weren't professional photographers, but they were just little details of things that were obviously important to them. And they'd bought this nice little 35mm Minolta camera as well, and they were sort of experimenting with it a bit. But I had this whole photo album that I'd flick through and felt like I was travelling through time and into places that I couldn't even imagine until I look at them, and then I felt transported into those worlds. And that I think that influenced the way that I started to look at, if I was going to take a photograph, I'd want it to really capture the atmosphere and the feeling of that time. My dad had a National Geographic subscription, and I would love nothing more than seeing the latest issue arrive and then lying on the carpet in the lounge room, flipping through and going on these adventures and journeys through the photography of these incredible National Geographic photographers. And a lot of what they did was, like, it wasn't just here's a shot of the person, it's here's a person in their environment, in their world, in their house, in their mountains, in their landscape, and give some context. And I mean, I think that's the perfect piece of photography. If you can communicate a whole narrative and get a sense of a person through a single still frame, then that's something that I'd like to bring to my cinematography.
Absolutely. I had the same thing with Nat Geo. Those make never much of a reader, but you just flick through all the photos. And how about you? It was acting originally, but then coming into it as a filmmaker, or
it's I mean, when I was a young kid, I used to make ninja movies with my brother in the garden, and we would rehearse them, and then when the camera was rolling, we borrowed the VHS camera from my mum's high school. She was a high school teacher, and then for the rehearsal we'd miss, and then in the take he would beat me up well and truly properly on camera, and I think, oh, you're doing so good, as I was blubbering on the floor after a big spinning back kick to the gut. And so, I wanted to be an actor when I was a kid. And then I think like I was saying before, there's nothing to act in. I grew up in the Blue Mountains. There wasn't a lot going on in Lithgow at that time. you have to make your own stuff. And then as you get more involved, you realize it's a living, breathing artwork, you know. So I was very interested in visual art and writing, and but also sort of, you know, the math science side of things as well. But I think, like Denson was saying, it's a bit of a it's the details. I think people don't necessarily overtly notice something specifically, but it's all psychology. It builds a feeling. It's like certain colors evoke certain emotions. You know, if you put a certain tone in a film, it makes someone feel uncomfortable because it affects you in a certain way. If you shoot at a certain angle, you know, it makes a character feel more menacing or bigger or more present, or diminishes them, you know. And so if you have someone on the left of screen or the right of screen, you know, there was a great book I read early on that I think it was called Directing Shot by Shot. And one of the things that got me was it had this frame of someone hiding around the corner down an alley, and it did it two ways, where the person down the alley was on the left and the other person close to you was on the right, and then it did it the opposite way, and it said, what's happening in this frame? And you went, oh, that person's hiding, you know, they're hiding from them. And then, oh, what's happening in this frame? Oh, that person's waiting to jump out, you know. And it was because we read, in the Western world anyway, left to right across screen, the character on the left felt more powerful. So in the first frame, when the person is, you know, down the alley, you feel like the person on the right is sort of hiding from that character on the left. But when it was swapped around, you felt that the person on the left was waiting to jump out and attack the other character. And it was just this epiphany moment to me that these subtle things, we're all used to reading cinematic language. We all grow up watching TV, and we know if something feels right or feels amateur or feels good, but we can't necessarily know why. We can't all write cinematic language. And getting really involved in learning to write cinematic language, like Denson was saying, the way that the light plays on something creates a very different feel about where you are than, you know, if it's stark blue tones or if it's warm, kind of earthy, textured, soft tones. You feel like you're in the 1950s as opposed to, you know, modern future. And people will instantly look at the frame and they'll know, or they'll get a feeling, but they won't know why. And I think it's the job of the filmmaker is to work out that why and then be able to recreate it. So, you know, making films is about, it's visual art, it's performance and timing, because you edit. You know, edit is kind of, it's composition of the actual frame, so who's on the left and the right, and, you know, what angles are you shooting. But then it's also got this element of timing to it, like you're saying with Jordan Peele. It's about a living, breathing artwork. It's got sound, so it's basically the one medium that involves every possible other form of artwork that you can think of wrapped up in the one thing. So if you want to be a visual artist or a musician or a costume designer or a makeup artist or a performance artist, you know, there's a role in film that can do that. If you want to be a computer nerd, you know, there's post-production, it's this one. Actually, it was in New Zealand after the Christchurch earthquakes. They were sending trucks down from the Hobbit set with emergency relief sort of packages, because the film set was sort of the only place that had all the resources you needed to get a town running. You know, it had generators, it had tents, it had, you know, it had clothing, it had just all the expertise and because you do build these little worlds. You know, you come together, you build these little worlds, and then you go away and you either trash it or you pay for it in storage for a long time. And I suddenly remembered that I've got to cancel my Storage King thing. Yeah.
So if we're in a zombie apocalypse, we should run to a
film set. Oh, 100%.
Or Storage King.
Sorry, or Storage King. Where I mean, there's some amazing things laying around in sets, and you see these amazing sets that get built with love and detail and care, and then the shot's done and the bulldozer comes in and
crash it,
and your heart breaks, and you're like, but what if we did? So that's terrifying. I was just going to ask very quickly, actually, selfishly, about so I'm doing a bunch of research into the effect of the pandemic on Australian filmmakers or Australian filmmakers' response to it. How did that affect you guys? Because you were being international, at the time. What was the effect of that on where your projects were and how you dealt with them?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we were just finishing a TV series in Rome at the end of 2019, a Sky series. We'd flown into, and in fact, on the last week of the shoot, one of our cast fainted and had a fever, and we didn't know what was wrong with him, and they couldn't quite work out. And it turned out that he did have COVID.
Wow.
And Italy was one of the first places to really have it, and we arrived in the UK just as all the lockdowns happened, and we were fortunate in the sense that we were in post-production on that TV series, so we were working remotely. Claire was the director on it, and so she was editing from our house in Notting Hill that they'd put us up in, so it landed pretty nicely, to be honest. And then I did the grade remotely. They'd sent over a nice big OLED Sony broadcast monitor, and I could review and talk to Jet, the colorist, who had her own matching calibrated monitor, and so that kind of worked okay. But then when it came to shooting, I think the UK was one of the first to get back to work in the film industry, because I can remember, at first they were saying, well, are we going to be able to go back to work as filmmakers, because it's not really an essential service. But the film industry did change its categorization from, rather than being an entertainment industry, it's a manufacturing industry, and we are manufacturing content, which is massively consumed at this point because everyone's at home wanting content. Yeah, well, it did get
what do you do to get through lockdown? Is you listen to music and you watch TV. Yeah.
So we were manufacturing. That's also a little bit that calling it content was probably quite hurtful to what it is, because it is either entertainment or it is art. But anyway, the UK did get back to work, but it had a whole lot of protocols, and there was a fund there that was for the COVID relief or COVID safety protocols on set. So, and there was all the testing, daily testing, and all that stuff, which personally I find to be the most boring conversation to talk about, because it was such a tedious time. But I actually found I started to get a lot of last-minute jobs similar to just talking about coming in and filling in for other DPs, because there was daily testing. There was a couple of times where I got a call on a Friday afternoon saying, "Oh, hey, our DP's just tested positive, and he's down for 10 days.
Right.
Can you start on Monday?" And next thing I'm on a project that's already been shooting for months, and jumped straight in. I'd had the weekend to watch some of the material and talk to the DP over the phone, read the scripts, and then land on day one. I'm filling in on someone else's project because they weren't permitted to come back out on set. So it kind of became a good opportunity in some ways.
Yeah, right. Oh, I mean, and that's really interesting there. That's one aspect sort of hadn't heard of as much before, because for some people, if they were in post, it was the best time in their lives. They got lots of work. If you were someone who needed to be on set, like an actor or a DP, it was crappy time because things weren't shooting. But that's an interesting outcome, where there's probably a lot of projects that are sort of trying to shoot or half shot, and people are going down. Yeah, right. And so the project would continue. They'd just bring in someone else. They didn't shut the project down.
Yeah. Whoever tested positive.
Yeah, right.
Everyone else is on standby to step on in.
Yeah, nothing like a bit of certainty. I mean, filmmaking's, you know, not like it's uncertain enough. You need to throw a few. You like you said, you need to be a little bit crazy. You
Yeah.
need to.
That's my takeaway for today.
Well, look, Canberra's a funny town to be in that sense, because Canberra is the epitome of the stable government service job. You know, there are people you walk into a department and they've been there for 20 years or 15 years or something, and you know, a lot of friends I had, they're terrified of losing their job. They couldn't imagine it. Even swapping from one department to another is a big thing, and it's the antithesis to the world I've been living in, where you don't know what you're doing tomorrow. You don't know where your money's coming from. You're trying to pitch something. It may or may not get up. You've got no money, and then suddenly you're in charge of a $5 million budget, and you've got to be, it's an interesting end of the spectrum compared to the regular Canberra conversation that you have, because most people here are in a fairly stable setup, and they've generally got family and mortgages, and it's quite the common pathway. So it's filmmaking's really a bit of an outlier in this town. Yeah.
Yeah, and how have you found that aspect of it, especially where your wife is also in that same boat, where you don't know necessarily where the next job's coming, and
there's usually one breadwinner, one stable person in the.
But that's part of the adventure. And I work with other directors and on other projects, and sometimes there is that phone call where I'm asked, "What are you doing next week?" And you get your passport ready. We've got a job, and away you go. And that's exciting. I mean, we now we've got a son he's now 12. That complicates things. Just I can't just jump on a plane and not think about, hang on, I've got to get him to school, and he's got cricket training on Thursday. But that's part of the fun. Part of the fun too is that you don't quite know what the next job is, and sometimes it's something amazing, sometimes it's something that's going to pay really well, sometimes it's not what you expected. So it is. It's not the faint-hearted. That's for sure.
I guess the nature of what you and Claire do, you're probably doing more, more different gigs more regularly than she's with projects longer. Is that the way it generally works? Like she's, working and pitching and something to get a project up and through that she's going to write and direct, whereas you're able to kind of just jump onto some other projects as you need.
Yeah, and Claire's got a slate of projects that she's at various stages of development, and just got to get the cast together, got to get the budget together for them. So there is a lot more long lead. But we've the series we did in Italy, we wrapped on the luminaries in New Zealand. We thought we were going to move back to the States. We arrived, and like a couple of days later, Claire got a phone call saying, "Hey, there's this series we're starting up in Rome."
So you literally don't know which country you're living in.
Can you get on a plane next week? And we just moved to Rome for 9 months and had the best time.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean that's great that you've got a family unit that's got that flexibility and be able to do that. That the two of you were able to do that.
It's not easy. It does mean we've got 3 storage facilities around the world full of furniture that we should go back to at some point.
All right.
There's a common theme here. You both need to sort out your storage. Filmmakers and their storage.
There must be a service that can consolidate storage. Just blocks that move around the world.
Yeah, I mean, some stuff like the internet, like Facebook groups and things, have actually helped where, there's filmmaker groups where, filmmakers have a house in LA and they're away for a while, and they'll rent it out to other filmmakers cheap and stuff like that. So there's sort of these little sub communities that have developed because of this strange transient economy, and that's been an interesting sort of side result of it all. But the people you meet, they come down to, you work on a project with someone, and generally it's pretty tough. They're really long days, and you form a real bond, and then you have these kind of lifelong friendships that you may not see them again for 2 or 3 years or something, but it's generally a very well forged sort of relationship, because you feel like you've been in the trenches with them a little bit. Oh, I don't know. Maybe that's just my own trauma speaking. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Awesome to chat. I'll let you get going. We'll ask you what's coming up next. So the States of Mind. We'll have a sneak peek.
Okay. Well,
give
let's.
the people. That's coming up soon, I guess, in post-production now.
Has that got sound with it, or are they just getting a bit of a glimpse? No, it's all right. It's all right.
You're gonna die here. I'm sorry. I've always wanted to say that.
I'm glad you are all here, fighting it out.
Don't know what to tell you guys, but I read minds. We do readings, sell crystals, incense, all that shit.
I implore
It looks
you
amazing,
to
man.
give each
Little great.
task
Yeah.
full attention.
Reach out beyond you.
Why are you here?
Well, you said you'd pay us to be part of a study.
But what are you? Who is you?
I'm my consciousness.
Now meditate. If I boost these signals, you can reach out beyond your own senses. Our mind lives all around us.
You boosted our signal.
But there are entities in this place. You must all stay within the circle, or you'll be vulnerable to possession.
What's behind the red door? I think there's someone in there. Hello?
It's all bullshit. There's no such thing as spirits.
You let them use the machine?
Holy shit, are you guys all right?
We used the machine to try and see who was in that room, and when we came back, we got
Switched.
awesome.
Mate, this is another independent, independent financing too.
Yeah, the wonderful Ross Emery was our DP for that. Denson, happened to be overseas, unfortunately.
Well, Ross has done an
I had
incredible job.
had to settle for Ross Emery. That's a tragedy, isn't it?
This
Ross
looks
is brilliant.
cracker.
Yeah, he's
legendary.
absolutely fantastic. Very, very lucky to get him, and means that the film just looks great, and that's the that's half the battle. Just because it gets sold on, they look at it from a trailer and key art, and they'll make an offer, like sales agents and things, and they can tell within 20 seconds the production value of it. This is before they've know the story or seen the thing or know, and we worry about the nuance of this little light here or this keyframe in the VFX or whatever, and these deals are done at such a high level. They've looked at it. Who's in it? What is it? Oh yeah, we'll give you 50. I'm like, what? That's the deal. Hang on. So it's obviously after that it's got to hold up, but the way it looks is so important when at first what Denson does to create an image or a still or a trailer on in that first impression has so much value for the rest of the production that if it doesn't look like a real film, the rest of it's sort of irrelevant. It's like if you walked into a bookstore and it might be the best story in the world, but if it's stapled together A4 sheets of paper and hand scrawled, you don't take it seriously. It doesn't look like a real book. But if it's got a nice cover and it's printed and it's got a publisher's label on it, you go, oh, okay, don't know what the story is yet, but it's a legitimate book. It's a getting to that bar of making it just look like a real film and sound like a real film. That production value is, that's the real challenge of independent filmmaking anyway, because that's not a given.
Well, it looks like you've achieved that in this one here. And how does it feel to play that out now for the first time? That it's a key milestone, right?
Yeah,
the first time anyone sees a frame of that.
Yeah, it's nerve wracking. we did the free fall drop at Questacon today, so it's we've had a little bit of adrenaline.
It's a good metaphor.
Yeah. It is. It's like you're hanging on to the bar and you're about to let go. That's it.
There's no turning back.
Yeah, there's no turning back. It's like I haven't hit go on the release button of the film yet, so I'm still hanging onto the bar. I can still bail.
Awesome. Well, great point to finish on. Thank you so much for popping in and having a chat. All the best with the next projects, and thank you guys.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Cheers.